I have started streaming.
Bro.
Let's see if it goes live here. Yay!
Are we live?
Yep. Everybody say what's
Is
up,
this
and
real
then I'll
life?
listen to it on my computer speakers to see how it's coming out.
Hello! Adult Swim's new Mike Tyson Mysteries features Mike Tyson, a ghost, a bird, and look, it's Mike Tyson solving crimes.
Intrigued?
Done straight up like Scooby Doo. They're in a van and everything. That is ridiculous.
All
What
right,
the
let me.
fuck?
You're gonna hear a bit of playback for a second.
That's cool. Sean, you should do a monologue real quick so we can hear you.
A monologue. Jeez.
Sean,
Do
just
the one
sing.
from,
The hills are alive.
no.
No,
So
he's just
I
gonna say
started
no.
playing. I started playing The Evil Within on New Game Plus,
Mm.
and I started playing this morning, and I'm already on
Okay, we sound
chapter
good.
6. Chapter 6.
You'll have to tell us how that's doing here in a minute. Oh.
All right, I'm gonna close this computer right now, so I'm not eating up my
That,
bandwidth.
that that game is way easier on New Game Plus.
What is?
I wonder.
The Evil Within.
Oh, nice.
I died one time in the first 6 chapters, and that was completely my fault.
Hmm.
Of New Game Plus.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like stupid easy. By then, I had died like probably like 15 times, 16 times. I died most of the times in chapter 9. I was stuck on a death loop. I was just not getting past this part over and over and over again.
That can be frustrating, but it's also those moments when you finally conquer that and you jump off the couch.
Yeah, I was pretty pleased with myself. I was pleased, but also pissed off because the way I could have gotten out of it, I should have figured that out way sooner.
I'm watching Halo 4 1080p 60 frames.
Dude,
Like
I
finally, like
just
I
imagine like you're constantly like you're still just playing Destiny and you got your computer next to you streaming Halo footage and you're just like darting back and forth between the two.
Nah, I was trying to tinker around in some low level strikes to work on a exotic bounty where I just walk through the strikes because I have to do like 25. But I think that's where we're getting that additional echo, so I yanked my headset out and put it into my laptop and turned off my Xbox.
Ah. Oh, I hear
But
a
this
creepy door opening.
1080p 60 stuff is gorgeous. Looks ridiculous.
I thought 1080p doesn't matter.
The 60 frames is what really is killing it for this version of Halo 4. It just looks insane.
Yeah, we've never not
60
I
used
mean,
to
frames
the,
per
seeing that.
second should be the fucking standard.
especially for first-person shooters, sure. But I kind of appreciate the fact that up until this point they've kept it at 30 just for tradition, so to speak. But now they have a console that you'll be able to, that's able to handle all of the games all of the time at 60.
All right, we gonna do this? Let's start the show.
I
Let's go.
suppose. All right, let me turn this off. Okay.
Turn off everything but us, Drew.
Shut up. Need comforting. What's everybody? It's Rated M for podcast. Today is Sunday, October. Talk
25th.
really slow. It's the
The
26th,
25th.
raw.
25th.
It's the
Oh,
26th,
26.
raw.
26. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Internet doesn't lie. You might. So, this is Rated M for podcast, your new favorite video game podcast, and I'm your host, Drew Freeman. I am joined, as always, by the lovely Sean Messler.
Oh, lovely. I don't think I've ever been called that before.
And the incorrigible Rory Wood.
No, stop it! Please stop it! That was
I don't
supposed to
know
be
who
the
that is,
lion.
but
That was supposed to
apparently
be the
that's
lion
rude,
from the Wizard of Oz, but I
That's-
butchered
that's
that
the
like
lion
every
after
introduction I
his
ever
career.
do. What's up, everybody?
Yeah. So we're here with you live on Twitch at 8 p.m. every Sunday as normal at twitch.tv/rated for podcasts, and we are going to talk about video games. We're going to try to make this Halloween themed. Shouldn't be too hard, but I don't know, man. I'm missing that spirit. I need to get in some Halloween spirit. I'm hoping this does it for me, and this whole week is
I
just
knew I should have
spooky as
opened the
fuck.
show playing the Monster Mash.
Jesus, that's gonna un-Halloween me. I need like some straight up Halloween theme, or even the other major theme from Halloween that's Laurie Strode's theme.
Bandam down.
Yeah. Bong. Anyways, so we kick it off as usual with what you playing, Rory. What you playing?
A lot, but I'll start with Alien Isolation. Finally finished the game, beat it. It is as long as they say. It took me about 15 to 20 hours
That's what she
to
said.
get through. Took me about 15 or 20 hours to get through it. Loved basically every minute with it though. I'd rate it pretty highly. I think Creative Assembly had a vision of what they were going for, and I think they basically fully accomplished that goal. If I think their goal is in making the game that they did, because I just fucking loved it, man. It was a great survival horror in the sense that you're isolated, you've got limited offensive options. It's not
That's
quite.
convenient because it's called Alien Isolation.
I know, right? What a clever title.
Swag.
But yeah, just a great game overall. Like it plays fantastically. It looks great. The audio design and the atmosphere is incredible, and the fan service overall was really amazing. There was a moment. I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a moment about 3/4 of the way, maybe a little bit closer to the end than that, um, and it just really kind of like hits you, and you're like, damn, they've done such a great job of bridging sort of this made-up story in the center of Alien and Aliens. And yeah, just fucking great game. There's been a few negative reviews out there, and I mean everybody's entitled to their opinion, but some of those reviews I just think are a little bit off for sure. I don't
You
think the
disagree
game.
with them?
Yeah, I do on a lot of areas, and there's a couple reviews that they bring up some things about the AI that are just sort of wrong. Like in the sense that what one reviewer, I shall not name names, but he's a good game reviewer. But in this particular review of Alien Isolation, he talks about the AI being unpredictable and that not always being a good thing. And when I played the game at E3, that was one of my biggest takeaways was that the AI in this new Alien game was ridiculously unpredictable, and I loved that about it. And every time I was killed in E3, I kind of felt like it was my fault, and I died a lot. I never really got frustrated with it though, because I didn't feel they were cheap deaths. And in this review that I had read, they talk about how you get killed cheaply a lot, and there'll be moments when you're like seemingly safe in a locker, and the alien will still find you and pull you out. And while the alien can find you in the locker, it's not as simple as that. It's got a ridiculously good sense of sound and sight, and this thing more often than not will see you get in the locker because it can see you from pretty far distances. And the motion tracker itself is as good as it is for you, it's also a bit of a hindrance because enemies can actually hear that thing, including the alien, when they're in a certain radius of that. And that's most likely the case. In the video review of this reviewer's review, I can see that the motion tracker is actually up when he's talking about it. So it's a little bit like, they just didn't quite get it. But yeah, I don't know. I loved it, man. I loved every minute of it. It's a long game. It's a slow burn. I never felt like it was too long though, and I got what I wanted out of it. So I think if you've been hesitant to pick it up because of a few of the negative reviews out there, borrow it off a friend, rent it, do whatever you can, but play it because I thought it was a fantastic game.
Okay. Anything else during that last week here?
Well, yesterday was the Extra Life thing, which I know you're going to talk about, so I'll let you dive into that. But I
Yeah.
played a little bit of Evil Within, but I mostly played like I did 5.5 hours basically of retro games, and some of our rated M guys requested a couple, and some people on my regular Facebook, my main profile requested some stuff. So I played Michael Jordan, Chaos in the Windy City. It was an all Super NES night, so I started with Michael Jordan, Chaos in the Windy City, which
Oh my god.
was what hey man, I was
That's
taking
awesome.
requests, so it was what it was. It wasn't as bad.
Why do you even have that?
What's that? You can get
Why do you
anything
even
this
have
day and
that?
age, Sean. Come on, man. Um, And then after that, I played Zombies Ate My Neighbors, which was that's probably
Great
like the
game.
most time I've actually spent with the game was on that weekend night on Saturday night streaming it, and that game was awesome. It's still awesome. If you can find it, I mean, you can go emulate it. I don't support really emulating, or I don't really want to promote it, but you know, sometimes it's hard to find these games, and you can download them in 5 seconds. So go play Zombies Ate My Neighbors if you can. It's awesome. Also played a little bit of Star Fox, the original. Fun game.
Great game.
It's really tough. Like this day, I don't know how. Like, I mean, we didn't know any better back in the day, and it was sort of the coolest, mind-blowing fucking thing at the time. But I find it tough today playing it to get a good sense of depth off of it. So I'm kind of like misjudging like my boosts and stuff when I'm going through obstacles. But still awesome. Like looking back at that, it brought back just a ton of great memories. And to whip through the rest, I played Super Mario RPG, still as good as it was
Mm.
back then. A Link to the Past, which I mean, it looks phenomenal still. That game is awesome. I sucked at it though. I was
Yeah.
like missing, like just forgetting like little simple things, but great fucking game. And I think there was something else in there. Mortal Kombat 2 as well. Good times.
Nice.
Good times.
Very nice. Uh, Sean, lovely Sean.
Yes.
What did you play this week?
Um, I finished Shadow of Mordor, and my review will be up on We the Nerdy. It's an old game, so if you want to read my review, that's cool, but I will talk about it. And much like Rory said, Alien got some bad reviews and he doesn't agree with them. This got some good reviews and I don't agree with them. This isn't that good of a game. It's really not. But it's a bunch of good systems that mean nothing, that ultimately mean nothing. The ending is garbage. It's
Agreed.
one of the worst. It's one of the worst endings in the game
I'm
ever.
almost there. I'm not quite there yet.
All the leveling up you do in your combat skills, your weapons, runes, all of it has literally no bearing on the final confrontation in this game.
That does not surprise me one bit.
It's
Why doesn't that surprise you?
So
Short version,
game-
because I'm interrupting Sean here, but I was just surprised to hear that.
so I played that this week too. I can talk about my thoughts on it after Sean kind of finishes his thoughts.
Oh yeah, do that.
So the Nemesis system is one of those things that sounds really cool on paper, but it means nothing. It really does absolutely mean nothing. They give you a goal to do and you do it, but it doesn't really play into anything except one for a brief confrontation at the end of the game, which just ultimately makes that second to last confrontation that you have in the game super easy. And you could literally, because I did this, you could literally sit back and do nothing, and it will be taken care of for you. And
All right.
and then there's a hunting side mission, like quest that you do that has no bearing on the game. I don't know why I learned how to hunt. It just the story wasn't very good. Mostly because characters are introduced and then you kind of finish their brief little storyline and then they go away and you never see them again. It's just, I don't know, man. Like that game, it's frustrating because I had a lot of fun. Actually, with the controller in my hand playing it, it was fun, you know. But the goals that game sets for you, and all games should have goals, are just feel superfluous and pointless. Like I feel like they built a system and then tried to make a game around the system without having a clear vision of what they wanted to do. I don't know if that's a money reason. I don't know if it's a timing reason. I don't know what the problem is, but I was not nearly as enamored with that game as
It's funny because
everyone
like I
else
don't
was.
disagree. I actually agree with like a lot of what Sean says too. I would just sort of like I still rate it higher, I think, in my mind than Sean does. But it's funny listening to what you're talking about, Sean, because like I can't disagree with like anything that you're saying really. I think I was just like super
And see,
enamored, like a lot of people, with just how we were surprised by it, and the gameplay itself is like ridiculously fun in the moment when you get powered up. And I think like I'd still rate it like high. You know, I said a 9 for myself, maybe like high 8s, and I'd probably still put it in the high 8s for sure. But you make good points, and I can't argue with any of that.
let's put it this way: my final score is lower than what I said I would give it last week.
I don't remember what you said.
So
I said I would give it high
like
sevens,
an
low
8.
eights,
Oh, okay,
Okay,
low 8.
okay.
Yeah.
and it's lower than that.
Oh man, you're putting it in like Rise territory.
No, it's better than Rise. It's way better than Rise. It's it's just on a technical level with the open world, and it's a gorgeous looking game. It runs smoothly. The animations are really awesome. The combat is actually fun.
Yeah.
The variety of ways you can use the combat and your surroundings is a lot of fun. And like I said, in those moments, it's a lot of fun. But just it's one of those things where the sum of the parts don't make up the whole.
But totally. And that
And when
end,
you
that's what I said when I finished it too. I posted in Unlock that it was just like, all this epic action. It was like 40 hours of gameplay for me, pushing 50 hours of gameplay. Epic, just battling orcs out, leveling up, and then the end of the game. It was just the most underwhelming thing I'd experienced in a long fucking time. And it wasn't even from a story thing. It's like, strictly, like you say, a gameplay thing. So we won't say any more though.
yeah,
We'll let Drew figure out exactly what we're talking about when he plays it.
yeah.
So if the stat next to my save on the game itself is to be believed, I'm over 50 hours, and I just finished killing the war chiefs
Damn.
because
Wait. Say that again.
so I just finished killing all of the war chiefs, the first war chiefs.
So he's
like
still on
I've
the
hit
first
the
map,
mission.
Sean.
Yes.
Yeah, and how
I'm
many
still on
hours?
the first map, and
50.
according to the game, I've played like 40 to 50 hours already.
Oh
But
my god!
but I was questioning that
I've-
timer myself a couple times because like it seemed like
I am
it
not
was
sure about
already
that
like in the
timer.
20s, and I was like, what?
So I'm playing it on Xbox One, so I wonder if it doesn't turn off during the suspend mode. But I've played a fuck ton of this
No,
game,
dude, if it didn't turn off during suspend mode, mine would be on way longer than.
hundreds of hours. Then
It'd
it's
be
got
up
to be
there.
kind of accurate. Then I feel like I've played a shit ton of this game, and I could tell that I was getting lost in the like side stuff and doing all the running around and killing this captain, then dying from this guy, and then a bunch of guys get promoted. So then I go around and try to find all of them and kill them some more. That shit was fun to me. Like I've enjoyed every second of this game so far, and
Yeah.
I can tell that I've already not unlocked a bunch of fucking features to the game that are also like basic rhythm. Like I still can't imprint anybody.
Well,
I
you
can't
don't
mark
get- you
anyone
don't-
yet.
No,
You don't-
that game was
that
a
doesn't
blast,
happen
man.
until
I had a ton
after
of
you're
fun with it.
done.
Oh, okay. So I'm enjoying the crap out of this game, but I feel like I can see the edges, and I feel like this is a really solid game that doesn't hit like
Well, that's like it's all it's
good,
like all
as good
series,
as the things
dude,
that
man.
it
Even the
does
Uncharted
do.
series,
Like I
man.
don't feel like it hits the right level of quality on the rest of the stuff because they put so much into. So first of all, to back up, I'm pretty sure I've heard multiple times, and I've heard it enough times from enough people and enough podcasts and stuff that it's probably true. This game began life as a Batman game, I'm pretty sure, or it was supposed to be a Batman game, or it was an idea for a Batman game.
It doesn't
And you can
surprise
totally
me.
see that. It almost feels like it because all the fucking orcs sound like penguin like dudes or whatever. They all sound like the way they talk. If you closed your eyes and you took out some of the like subject matter, they sound like dudes that you would beat up in Batman. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that they're like, well, I heard if he sneaks up on you, you're totally like just
Yeah,
they sound like they're talking about Batman.
the biggest tell for me really was that like a lot of people talk about the similarities with Assassin's Creed, and like no question about it, the map layout, the way you do
Sure.
the tower stuff, but
Yeah.
people referred to like the animations as well, but like for me it's in there, but for some of those animations just scream Batman. Like when he's just strolling
Mhm.
and just walking, and you're walking slowly, and where the positioning of the camera and the way his shoulders move, it's just like.
And I
that
mean, I'm not
screams
saying
Batman
it
to
like,
me.
oh man, I can't believe this is like a Batman game. But because I think this game began life as a Batman game, I don't think this game was built from the ground up to be what it is today.
Yeah, I
And-
would think that's right, man.
And I think that is a strong indication of why there are like what Sean is feeling, where he's like, where the fuck is the rest of this game? Or like, where's
Mhm.
the punchline? Like, why isn't why isn't there a satisfying crunch at the end? Which I think Arkham City did really well, and I don't know about Origins ending, but I know Arkham Asylum's ending was kind of a womp womp, and because of that, I think that this type of game almost lends itself to not having a very good ending, like quote unquote boss battle at the end. I don't know. I don't
It's
know how the boss battle goes, but I can imagine.
here, the thing is,
I don't
it's
know if you
like
can imagine.
I
no,
probably
you can't,
No,
oh
seriously,
okay
Drew. I
cool.
think you'll be like, what the fuck?
I mean, unless you like
and here's
sword
the
fight
thing,
Sauron at a urinal, I don't know.
you've been
That would
set
be
up.
better.
You've been. That would be better. That would be better than this. Like
Okay.
if it literally turned into Batman, it
Hmm.
would be better than what this game ends with. And I mean, I can't stress it enough. And
Sure.
the it's frustrating. I don't want to give away too much because I want you to
Yeah.
experience it. But um, and my review does give away what that is. Because it's it doesn't give away a specific of who it is and what it is, but like it tells you, because that's my biggest contention. I can't talk around it. Like, and in my review, so you might want to wait till you finish it to
Sure.
read the review
Sure.
and then see how you
Okay.
feel about it. But the
I plan
the
on finishing it like in the next couple days.
it's like, okay, so you I can't like
No, just don't say. Don't even try to
There's only
circle
a
around it, Drew.
handful of
You'll
people
finish
that
it.
would be the
Let it
quote
happen.
unquote boss, and I think I know who the boss
That doesn't
should
matter,
is,
Drew.
like
You
who it's
honestly,
supposed to be, and then who it turns
no.
into,
I
and like
promise you,
It's
white.
I promise you that has nothing to do with it.
yeah, Drew.
I
It's
Okay,
not
promise
that.
you.
We're not
This
throwing
is
a story twist or
100%.
nothing.
This is
just game
100%
mechanics.
a gameplay
Yeah,
fucking
and so I
disappointment.
mean, like so think about this though. This game isn't designed very well on for one-on-one encounters. Even the captains and the war chiefs that you encounter, as interesting or different as they may be, it's really the fight off a horde of guys. Like somehow fucking use all of your moves to outwit or maneuver or
Yeah.
survive a horde of guys. There isn't really a lot of mechanics built into this game for you to all of a sudden have a really interesting boss battle. I just don't think it's built very
No,
well for
there
like
is. Trust me, there is, because you have three different types of combat. You have the bow,
range combat. Sure.
you have stealth, and you have melee,
Yeah.
and those are three very interesting systems that you can use with all the guys. And
Hell
that's the thing.
yeah.
That's what's so frustrating, is that I've used those, all three of those, to take out large groups of people, and it's so much fun. And
Yeah,
that's the
dude.
problem I have, is that it's that moment to moment stuff is so much fun, but okay, the subtitle of my review is deeply hollow. I feel
Mm.
like there's a deep combat system, but it's ultimately for nothing. It feels hollow. It feels like the end, just your goals in general don't really feel that important. They make it seem like it's important, and then you're like, this is really cool, and then you're like, wait, but why? And you know what I mean? And that's the thing that's frustrating for me, is that, especially coming off of a game like Evil Within, which is constantly giving you new mechanics throughout the whole game, and the boss battles are always engaging. Even the last one is a little disappointing because it's a little easy compared to the ones that came before, but
Hmm.
they're completely different. You have to use different skill sets together to beat the bosses, and that's what a boss fight should be. If you look at the best boss fights in video games, it's like,
It's everything that you've learned up until that point all put together. That's gaming 101. But I get
exactly.
but I think that I don't know, like I guess to answer the reason we're talking about this right now is because Rory asked me why am I not surprised to hear that this final boss is disappointing. I just feel like the final boss, like in playing this game, it felt like a game that is a shit ton of fun to play, but like ultimately in the end it leaves you with like a just like a that wasn't that great, but the like the experience of itself,
I
like I
wish
mean
that
Far
was the
Cry was
feeling I
like
had
that.
at the
Far
end of
Cry
the game.
4, at the end of Far Cry 4, who cares about it? Like who gives a shit about the end of Far Cry 4? The
Far Cry
experience
3.
of Far Cry 4, sorry, Far Cry 3, I've got it on my head. The experience of Far Cry 3 vastly outweighs any kind of like conclusion to the game, and I feel this. I'm approaching this game the same way. Like the
And
ending to any Assassin's Creed game has never mattered to me either, except for the one everybody knows, that
here's the
one
difference,
where
though.
it like takes control of you and you're like, what the fuck is happening? Why am I stabbing Kristen Bell?
Here is the thing. The main difference between Far Cry 3 and this. Far Cry 3, there is a genuine sense of accomplishment by taking over the compounds and freeing and making it so that the game becomes almost easier for you because you do struggle and you do this thing, and that's what you're supposed to be doing. It's just like a movie. If you have this character going through a movie doing all these things, and then he gets to the end of the movie and none of the lessons that he learned throughout the course of the movie play into the ending of the movie,
Yeah.
then it just feels disjointed and pointless.
Sure.
And Far Cry, while you might not have the battle with Vaz and the battle with the last guy may not feel overly satisfying, you're still getting that satisfaction of accomplishing something throughout the game. I feel like
Yeah,
you
I
don't
suppose.
accomplish anything in this game.
Okay.
And
I could
not
see
to
that.
belabor the point.
No, I get you. So I also played a fuck ton of Destiny. We can talk about our streams. So hey everybody, if you are listening to this now or in the future, you missed our awesome Extra Life random sporadic stream that we did over the weekend. Basically, my portion was I participated in the Destiny community, Destiny fans give back stream on Twitch, and it was a 25-hour stream that all the money went towards the Seattle Children's Hospital, in support of Bungie and Destiny and all that stuff. And so there were streamers like More Console, well, he's a YouTuber. Dado Does Destiny, who's a YouTuber and streamer. The Prime Guard guys were there. The Guardian Radio Network was there. Dames of Destiny, Dads of Destiny. There was a couple more. Destiny Dispatch really kind of helped put the whole thing together.
It was
So
a big long
hats
list,
off to
I
all of
saw.
them. Yeah. Oh, there's a huge list. Yeah. If you go to ratedmgaming.com, right now the blog is about that, so you can kind of go check out that information now. If you still want to contribute, you still can. But we raised the goal was $7,000. They hit that like last Tuesday, before the thing even started. And during the stream, we had donations of up to like over $1,200. And during my portion of the stream, actually, which when I was running the stream, I was representing Rated M Gaming Network. So we had guys from Smartwatch, guys from Podcast Evolved and stuff all together. We were just hopping around the Crucible. We passed $10,000 like right before the end of my stream, which I was really excited to have been a part of. We gave away Ghost editions of Destiny. We gave away a bunch of like swag and stuff that Bungie contributed. And then after my portion of the stream, we ended up hosting Bungie's like Bungie did their stream, and we just did the /host mechanic on Twitch, so people could continue to hang out in the chat. But we hosted Bungie's stream where they went out and did. They got some of the people from this event into their group, along with people who, like they call them the ninjas of Bungie.net, but it's just the people who admin Bungie.net, and they went out and did bounties. So if you beat their team, they would give you a like employee exclusive emblem for your in-game stuff in Destiny, which I think is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
At some point we had like over 600 viewers. I think during our stream we had about 300 and something viewers. It was a really successful thing. And then our portion of this whole event, Extra Life, is just like minuscule compared to, the stuff that like Rooster Teeth, those guys always pull in tons and tons of money. I think Game Informers was like, or no, Giant Bomb. I think Giant Bomb raised like over $100,000.
Yeah, dude. I saw
in the
the
24-hour.
Diablo team did over $100,000 too.
It's
They
fucking cool.
I'm friends with somebody on there. They did 97.8.
Oh shit.
Well, that's still
but that's
amazing.
still
pretty
that's
rad.
fucking I got $15. So
Nice.
There you go. Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. And so I played a shit ton of Destiny during that. Immediately after the stream, we had like by the end of the stream, by the end of our portion of the stream, we had a really good group of people together. So Krista from Podcast Evolve wanted to do the raid real quick. So we turned around and we finally finished the raid. Actually, I might have finished the raid the night before that. I can't remember. But I finished the raid during the last week, finally. I got a shader for it. That's it. Oh, wait, no, I got a chess piece. I also got a chess piece, so I'm leveling that. But it's pretty cool. I'm happy with the fact that they patched out the nerfing of like pushing the boss off of the ledge. That's dumb. I like it when you can do cool, neat stuff that helps you survive, but when you literally just like break the game to make it win. I mean, that's not exactly breaking it, but it's like, hey, this is a dumb video game. We could just dumb it and then win. Like, I don't know. I
Well,
love it
the
when
whole
it's
point of the raid is supposed to be one of the
legitimate
most challenging
challenge.
things, right? Like,
It really is. I mean, it's I don't know. It's a back and forth. I agree with a lot of the takebacks of the raid of like once you've done it a few times, you can really blow through it. I mean, shit, we did it in like an hour, 8 minutes, something like that. But if you went through that thing and you didn't have somebody like pushing you through it, you would not know where the hell to go. I mean, it would take you hours. Like you would not know what the fuck is happening. You'd run out of ammo, first of all. So it was really cool like experiencing it with people for the first time. It was cool doing this. I've never played like raids or anything like that. I played World of Warcraft a couple years ago for a few months, and I did dungeons, which are kind of like raids. I feel like there's a more like strikes where you know there's bosses and stuff, but it's not like if you don't have this gear, you will die. You know what I mean? Like um, raids and MMOs are much more complicated, and this is somewhere in between the two of them. Uh, I like this. I'm really excited to see if this DLC, the rumor is that there's going to be another raid and all that stuff, and I think that would make sense. I look forward to that. So, Rory, you did a stream. Did you do a whole 24 hours of that stuff, or what did you end up
good
doing?
lord, no, all by myself. Good,
Okay, I
no,
wasn't
no,
sure
no,
if you
no,
were
no,
going
no.
to. I thought you were. I was like, Jesus, man.
No, I kind of like entertained the idea in my head for a bit, but I'm just like, come on, man, I got shit to do. It's a Saturday. My girlfriend, for one, does not want me like dominating the living room TV for 24 hours or whatever it is. So,
Nope.
no, but
Yeah.
I put in I did a 2 hour stream of Evil Within, and then after that, I booted up the retro stuff and went for almost 6 hours. So I did 8 hours of streaming that day by myself. I'm pretty happy with that. I had the links in there and was directing everybody back towards your Destiny thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's where I was
Yeah.
bouncing everybody because I didn't have my own pledge page set up. It was like last minute, so I wasn't going to bother with that. But I was directing everybody through some advertising on my page saying, "Go down here. You can donate to anybody, but this particular
That's
link is
pretty
going to
rad,
send
dude.
you to the Destiny group, and it's the Rated
Do you
M for
know if
Gaming
anybody
Network." And
that was watching your stream ended up doing that or not? Did you get any like word from anybody?
I did not get any word from anybody, and I didn't ask.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
was just at the beginning of the stream, midway through the stream, and near the end of the stream, I just brought it up
that's
like,
cool,
"Hey,
man.
check this down here. Go donate if you like, and yada yada
Heck
yada."
yeah.
And
So we talked a little bit about some of the games that you played. Did anything eventful happen during the stream, or you just kind of blow through some of those
no, just some
games, or?
classic Rory moments. If you've hung out on Red Eye Games Live before, you know that I can fumble away and bumble about the controls sometimes. And
That's fun.
I think Sean was there, and our good buddy Nick, who might be hanging out in the chat right now. Were logged in when I was doing some Evil Within, and I think for about
Oh, cool.
4.5 minutes, like I usually open up my stream with like a banner image and my camera on me, just saying, "Hey, what's up, everybody?" like an introduction, and then
Uh-huh.
I click over to the new scene, which is the game. But this is the second time now. The first time I don't think people were watching, so it was all good. But this time there was some people watching. And 4.5 minutes in, they tell me, "Hey, aren't we supposed to be looking at the game?" And the whole time
That
they were
was
just
me.
looking at a background image and then the camera like on my face as I'm like playing the game. And I'm like, yeah, I'm talking about stuff and nobody can
You
see
could hear
shit.
the opening cutscene, and I keep going, dude.
Are we just gonna
I could
watch
hear.
you play this game?
Yeah, yeah. I was like, dude, aren't we supposed to actually see the game?
Yeah, but it
Like,
took
I didn't
No,
know
everybody
if it
man. This
four and
was.
is
a half
no.
minutes.
See, Rory
That's why I
here
love
is
friends, man.
pushing. Rory here is pushing the limits of what Twitch streaming actually is. And his new thing is you're going to watch him play a game.
Yeah, you're not
And I
gonna watch
don't mean you're
gameplay.
going to watch the game. You're going to watch him play the game. It's
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 all the
very cutting
rage with
edge.
kids these days, Drew. I'm
He's
telling you,
so
man.
hot right now.
Oh man, and I'm like looking like a hobo right now. My beard is like all unkempt and crazy and really like pubicy. It's getting disgusting.
Awesome. Well, Sean, what did you play during your stream? I know you played some Titanfall.
That's all I played. I played 5.5 hours of
Is that
Titanfall.
new stuff out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we played most of it. I'd say no, everything we played was Frontier Defense, which is the
I
new
was,
quote unquote horde mode.
yeah.
It was funny because the first, I don't know how they do it. I think they kind of ease you into it because the first map we did was very easy, and then it gets other maps. It's just fucking ridiculous. It is so hard because um, it's, and you think like there's not a lot of enemies, but they created new enemies for this mode.
Really?
There and the word, yeah, there's two. Well, there's three. There's three Titans that they're still basic Titans,
Mm-hmm.
but one of them's an Arc Titan, so they're constantly have an Arc shield around them. So if you
Oh,
get close to them,
oh.
it completely depletes your shield, and you have to defend this Harvester. And the Harvester has a shield, so if they get close to the shield, it'll deplete the shield, and then it can take damage much quicker. So you have to take those out. Then they have nuke titans. The nuke titans are just that. They have a nuclear symbol over them, and they get close to the harvester and they detonate it, and it's fucking devastating. But the worst ones and the most devastating ones are the mortar titans, where they shoot mortars, and these are the most deadly accurate mortars ever. They just hit the harvester, and they will eat it up. And it's not like you get one or two. There's times where you get like 11 at
What the
once.
fuck?
Yeah,
Seriously?
so if but at that point, the four people that you have to go take out all these titans, and you can take them out with just shooting them a couple times, and then they'll stop shooting mortars. But when there's 11 of them, you have to use electric smoke. There was times where I was like using electric smoke on two, and then run over and nuclear eject my brand new Titan just to take a bunch of them out. But it was a lot of fun. Uh, and after every round you get a turret, and you could mount the turret, and the turret just annihilates anything. But it has a health bar.
Mhm.
But these portable turrets are phenomenal. I want them to be in the actual game.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I played, like I said, I played it for 5.5 hours. I took like a 30-minute break to eat food, but yeah, I mean, that was great. And we played the new maps and stuff, and it was just a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, I love Titanfall. The new update's kind of crazy because now it tells you how many people are playing it, and there's not a lot of people playing the game. I think at the
They're gonna
most
reduce
I
Oh,
saw
that
was like,
sucks.
Damn it,
Yeah, I was
guys.
gonna say I think it sucks that the timing wise that they got that feature in, and it's like just kind of shines a
well, I
light on
mean,
it.
I can't imagine that they aren't aware. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Yeah.
Like,
No,
Oh no,
they
they
of
they,
know.
course they know.
so I can't. So they had to know, like,
That'd be
okay, we're
funny if
putting
half
this
the
up,
company
but it's
found out when the timer went in game. They logged in. Damn it! I'm
We're
sure
like,
everyone
oh
would.
shit, really?
there's about, I think at any given moment there's probably like 10,000 people playing.
Ooh.
Ooh, I'm
Um,
surprised. I like when you said it was low. Like that's surprisingly low.
no, and I mean it could be a whole topic of a discussion,
Yeah,
but
we'll save
I
it.
feel like it's it's the case of I'm not going to put all the blame on Respawn on this, and I'm going to blame EA and Microsoft also. It came out at a time where Microsoft didn't have a big exclusive, and this game was made in a year, and it wasn't feature complete. And now it is a drastically different game. There's tons of game modes. There's tons of variety to the game,
Yeah.
but it came. We're like what 7 months out from when it released,
Hmm.
and that's why I'm confident that when Titanfall 2 does materialize, they'll probably be given the time to take their time and make sure that when that game launches, it's going to have a complete skill set. What's really cool about this new thing is that it's a co-op mode. Um, so it's not competitive, it's just co-op, and it's fun. And that's something that they found a way to use the gameplay loop outside of the
What it was
competitive
originally
multiplayer.
built for, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it was built to be a competitive multiplayer game.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting that they managed to find a good, fun game mode. There's only 5, depending on the map. There's some maps where we did it was like 5 waves. Another map we did was like 6 waves. So I guess it depends on the map. Probably maybe on how easy or hard it is to get to the harvester. But yeah, it's impressive to me that they've managed to really bring something new to something familiar
Sure.
to
Yeah.
this specific game.
It
Yeah,
looked like a lot of fun. I hung out for an hour or so watching you play, and I thought the mode looked pretty crazy. So it's given me enough of a
And
reason right now to like get back in, boot it up, and at least play some matches in Titanfall again. It looks good.
and I'm gonna brag about being the top person on my team every game. With one game, I didn't die once. Everybody
Wow.
died like 7 or 9 times. I killed like 29 Titans, died 0 times.
We
The
bow
thing is,
to you, Sean. King Titanfall.
no, it's not me. I was just smart enough to know that they have this thing. There's a burn card called Double Agent,
Yeah.
and basically what Double Agent is, the AI Titans, grunts, specters, and turrets won't shoot you. So when I was out of a Titan, they weren't paying attention to me, no matter how much damage I was doing to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's cool.
I just
Yeah,
noticed
I mean,
that our
it's
banner image is the one that Sean has the booger hanging out, and he doesn't like that.
yeah, I don't like that one.
Okay.
But go ahead.
So why don't we move on to our to the main event here.
Let's talk some horse.
Halloween is next Friday. So yeah, we're gonna talk about some horror games, horror movies, horrors, and scary, spooky shits, and candy, which give you scary, spooky shits. But before that, real quick, I'm just gonna put some info out there just for the world. So I was going to fix all of our stuff last week. I had plans. I was gonna we're like a few episodes behind now on iTunes, and this is all my fault. And I was gonna get it all fixed, and then I got sidetracked a little bit. I lost my job, so now I don't have a job, and I got all this free time to do stuff like fix the website, fix the podcast and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm going to be looking for work. I'm really hoping I can start using this as an opportunity to transition into doing more of this type of work and still get the bills paid, still keep the lights on, still play video games. So that is why, if you're listening to this on iTunes, it's been way too long since you've heard an episode from us. So sorry about that. So moving on, why don't we talk about some horror games? Rory, did you have like a schedule or a plan or something you wanted to do?
No.
Or do you just want to talk about video games?
No, let's just chit chat. I got no plan.
All right. So first of all, why don't I ask you guys, when you think Halloween / horror games, what is the first game that comes to mind, Sean? What's the first game that pops in your head when you think horror games? Okay, so
No.
Rory, what's the first game that pops in your
Sorry,
head?
I was muted.
All right, Sean's back. Sean's back.
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil does?
The first one?
Is that
Yeah,
like
Resident Evil.
is that a memory for you?
Sorry, I got an image of Resident Evil
y-
2. That's what you get.
I'm a huge horror fan.
Yeah.
I'm like in general, I love horror movies, and my friend got the PlayStation, and it was still a relatively new thing, and I went over to his house, and he had Resident Evil, and I had just fallen in love with it. It was zombies, which is my favorite subgenre of horror, and so just seeing that, and then it, obviously it goes beyond just horror. Like I remember very distinctly, he didn't have a memory card because he didn't realize he needed one. So I played as much of Resident Evil as I possibly could before I fought the snake boss and died. And then obviously you had to start all over again. But I was like, okay, I know I want to play this game, and I know I want a PlayStation. So, so it was just this great thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's not my favorite Resident Evil game. I still put Resident Evil 2 as the pinnacle of the series, even over Resident Evil 4, which I still love, but in terms of more of a horror game. And so I just think it's just, to me, it's the game that legitimized horror on consoles.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, I know there were a lot of scary things up until that point, but first of all, Resident Evil was just successful as hell. Like it
Yeah.
did really well. Resident Evil 2 specifically, like you said, which I agree is kind of the best one. I know Resident Evil 4 is a great game, but in my mind, everything. So first of all, I didn't play Resident Evil 4 when it came out. I played it like way later. But everything I heard about Resident Evil 4 and everything I saw was like, that's not Resident Evil though. Like that's just some new game with the people from Resident Evil in it. Like it's so far different, you know, with just like keeping the same pieces involved. It'd be like taking chess pieces and then like playing a game that's similar to chess but way more complex. Uh, I loved Resident Evil 2. That city, Raccoon City, just the vibe. I played a little bit of Silent Hill around the same time, but Silent Hill was clearly like nowhere near as accessible. Like you didn't know what the
No.
fuck was going on, and at least with Resident Evil 2, you're like, okay, zombies, guns, got it. Okay, I gotta move this thing. I don't know where I am. I think I played Resident Evil 2 before Resident Evil 1, but I would agree that's definitely a great like go-to
It's
horror game classic moment there.
and I mean, outside of the realm of horror, it just in terms of a gameplay design, it's just incredible that you can play the game 4 different times and have 4 different perspectives depending on who you choose first. You know, if you use Leon first, then you use Claire second, and she has a different outcome. Like you see the events that way, but if you start with Claire first, you see a different. So you could literally play the game 4 times and have things happen 4 different ways, and that's which blows my mind that they never went back to that system. And it was called the zapping system. I don't know why, but I guess that's up there with transfarring. And like, but it's just so good. And like, I mean, the replayability on that game was through the roof. It's just it's a classic. And that, like I said, Resident Evil to me it's like if you think JRPG, you think Final Fantasy. If you think
Right.
survival horror, you think Resident Evil.
Absolutely.
There might be games
Yep.
that are better than that now, or you know, Resident Evil might have fallen off from favor, but it's like it is the Godfather.
Yeah, I
of
mean, like
survival horror on
it is.
consoles,
It's a
so.
pinnacle of that, or it's a touchstone of that genre for sure. So,
Listen, I was gonna say
Rory,
too. I want to interject. I did have a plan. I didn't realize that until I started to flip pictures. But why don't
good
we
job.
just like, you know, I was asking you guys earlier just like to name a few of your favorite games. So why don't Sean? You named
Well, he just did Resident Evil 2, right?
exactly. Well, Sean, you got a couple more, man. Why don't you bang off the other two that you were talking about?
Well, PT again. I know it's not a game, but in terms of, I've never been more terrified in a video game than playing that
Huh.
demo. Like
Wow.
it is hands down like this one of the scariest experiences. It's I love being scared, and I love the feeling of it. I love the sense of dread. I love the suspense. I love the way my body tenses up when I'm like, you know, it's just all that feeling is in that game, and it's just exponentially greater when you're playing it. It's different when you're watching a movie because it's passive, you know, and but when you're actively involved in the horror, it's just something that I can't stress enough about how good it was. But yeah, that and hold on, and Fatal Frame was the other one
See,
where
I've never played Fatal Frame, but it looks creepy as fuck. It's about like taking pictures, or
yes, and the only way you can kill the ghosts are by taking their picture, and you have to get a perfect shot, and it's not easy. It's like it's not an easy thing to do when they're coming after you, and that I love because I'm a huge fan of Asian horror, and it just evokes all that stuff like the supernatural and the way Asian cinema treats ghosts and stuff like that. It's just
yeah.
it's on another level that we don't get here, and the closest we've ever had is the actual remake of The Ring, and it's just like it's just on another level, and it's a terrifying game. It's highly dated, you know, obviously, but I would love to see like a next gen version of Fatal Frame and what that would look like.
So, I guess my turn.
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry.
Some of your favorite horror games.
So historically, I try to stay away from horror games just because a lot of them are like knee jerk, jump scare, just get you like adrenaline spike moments. And after a while, I get tired of that because in between that, unless you're like a masochist, like when as much as I enjoyed Resident Evil 2, I got really tired of it because I was like, man, this is just like I'm stressed out and I'm freaking out and I'm also trying to figure out these like horrible puzzles and this camera is just not, it's like actively fighting against me. And I was like, this is just not that much fun. But when I was a kid, I remember playing on the original PlayStation. I remember playing Clock Tower. Fuck me, that
Great
was
game.
terrifying. Holy
Great
shit.
game.
Like you're a little girl, and as of course you're like limping if you get hurt a little bit, which always happens, and you can't move around very quickly. And there's this guy with these giant scissors, and he's like in the beat, it like of him chasing after you. You just hear this doom shing, and just it's like coming after you, and you run into the bathroom and hide in the stall. But if he sees you go in there, he's gonna find you, and there's literally nothing you can do about it. Like you can't, he'll trap you. You can't run past him. It's side scrolling. It's very scary.
It's a point and click adventure. That
Oh,
should
it's
be
so
pointed out.
it's such a. Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's been so long.
Yeah, that was the Scissor Man.
Oh god, that was so fucking.
It was so. I love that game. That game gave me the biggest jump scare until I played PT.
So
I opened a closet. I clicked on a closet and he jumped out of the closet and I fucking jumped. I was like, "Oh shit!" And you can't fight him.
I was like 12 or something when I played that game. Fuck, scared the shit out of me. That game scared. So I also wanted to talk about Doom is a classic horror game in my mind, just because of the vibe that a lot of some of the levels like give off, like the creepy sounds. If you just stand still in Doom and listen to the zombies around you, and the music is always so like creepy and eerie when it's not being like heavy metal. And obviously, like when you're walking around, if you actually kind of get up and look close at those muddy textures, you're like, oh, that's like a disembodied disemboweled corpse just hanging upside down, and like all these spikes going through. Like, fuck me, this game is creepy and shit. I loved Doom for that. I liked Doom because it felt like a scary game that empowered you, like made you feel powerful, and you could like fuck all this scary stuff up. I thought that was really cool. Another classic, whenever I hear horror, I always think of Dead Space, because that was like, in my mind, it wasn't a return to form or anything like that. It was just like such a perfect homage to the sci-fi horror genre. I never played what's the predecessor to BioShock? System Shock. I never played System Shock. From what I understand, that's also really creepy as far as like sci-fi horror and stuff goes. But Dead Space, fuck. Like I actually never finished it because I had to stop playing because it was just freaking me out too much.
Dude.
I was getting like too stressed out.
I hear what you're saying about the stress and stuff like that, and that's kind of what I like about the horror games.
Yeah.
But Dead Space, man, it's one of those games that I like it, but I think it's highly overrated.
I would agree. Like I thought it was a really great game. I thought it was like a solid 8. But at the time, it just came out at a really good time for it to stand out so much.
Yeah, we were missing those, man. We were missing really good, solid third-person survival horror type games, and it came out.
And that game really struck a chord with me because those guys. I read the Game Informer cover article like months or a year before it even came out.
I remember that one.
Like, yeah, and the whole thing, they were being very deliberate about it. They were like, "This all sounds like Alien, doesn't it? Because we fucking love Alien, and we're going to make a game." Because no good Alien games exist, so we're gonna make a good Alien game. And you're like, God damn it, this looks so cool. And then the abominations that appear are just so terrifying. They're so creepy. Like you get that shock of something jumping out at you, but also you get the residual shock of like trying to figure out what it is you're even fucking shooting at. You're like, what is this thing? Oh God. And then my favorite moment from Dead Space specifically is when I punted a baby. That was the best thing that ever happened in a video game ever. These little baby things jump out and attack you, and I was like, "Oh, get it away!" And I just watch Isaac, pick him up and like punt it, and I was like, "I just punted a baby."
I totally forgot.
Like I
about
put my
that.
controller down. I was like, "Holy fuck! I just fucking punted a baby. This is the best game ever." And then my last one would be Half-Life. Scared the shit out of me because I used to play it in the dark in the basement of my house alone as like a teenager, and it was so good at building that atmosphere and making you feel like helpless and stuff, at least at the beginning of the first half of the game. And I was just like, man, this game is so fucking intense, because up until that point shooters just didn't give you that feeling. They didn't give you that like feeling of place and feeling of like there's stuff around you in a 3D space that is gonna fucking just jump out at any moment and all
I
that
love
stuff.
Half-Life.
That's so
it was
good.
nuts, man. Right from that very
It's
first
not a
trailer,
horror
right?
game, but man,
Well,
it's
in
intense.
Half-Life 2, we don't go to Ravenholm anymore.
Oh god, that's its own
scary.
game right there.
That's a horror game, and
Yes, it is.
you can see where the seeds for Left 4 Dead came from with that.
That's a good
So
point. That's a good point. That's actually something we should talk about sometime in the future. Is games that like take such a drastic shift. Like Half-Life 2 up until that point was not a like quote unquote scary game. You know what I mean? Like the tone of that game changed so hard in that level right there. You're just like, what?
mhm.
I mean, you dreaded doing that. If you ever go back and play the game again, when you get to that point, you're like, oh fuck, I gotta go to Ravenholm. Yeah, man. So what about you, Rory? What are some of your games, your
There's
horror games?
there's a bunch. I mean, Resident Evil 1 for sure. But Resident Evil. Oh, wrong thing. Resident Evil 2 is I just realized that when I yell out things like "oh, wrong thing," our audio podcast listeners have no idea what I'm talking about. But
Rory is doing some amazing things in the upgrading the visual presentation of our live show. And our
I still stumble about in classic Red Eye fashion.
It's
Resident
okay.
Evil 1, marked my first like real experience like playing a great survival horror game. I kind of missed the Alone in the Dark stuff. Like it was around, I just didn't get into it, didn't play it. Seeing Resident Evil 1 on PlayStation changed all that, and then Resident Evil 2 was the game that officially made me forge a check of my mother's so that I could go and buy a PlayStation and get Resident Evil 2 with it. Of course, this was
That's so
like tiny
fucking
young
cool.
self, not realizing that, of course, as an adult, your bank statements come, and there was this check that she did not remember writing. So I learned a valuable lesson that day. Um,
Mm.
but Resident Evil 2 is hands down probably my favorite Resident Evil, outside of the GameCube remake of Resident Evil 1, which I think is fantastic. But Resident Evil 2 holds a dear place in my heart, as well as Silent Hill 2. And it's the same sort of story that, like, the first one really wowed me, but Silent Hill 2 was the one that just perfected, in a sense, what they were going for with number one. It just looked way better. It controlled still awkwardly, but better. They got rid of that fixed camera stuff that Resident Evil had. I think the original Silent Hill had done that. But just so many good fucking memories, man. And Resident Evil 4, of course. A great one, though, was Eternal Darkness on the GameCube. I don't
Yes,
know of how
yeah.
many people
I've
got a
heard
chance to
so
play
much
that.
about this game, and I've never played it.
It's a crazy one. It was weird. It had these insanity effects. There was moments where it would think that
Mhm.
you like had lost your game and it was all like erased. Go play
Yeah,
that game if you can find it. Eternal Darkness was a great one.
shit's intense from what
But
I've
the
heard.
great thing about, like, I think why Resident Evil and Silent Hill and those early games on PlayStation made such a profound effect on me as far as getting me into survival horror games was that they were finally, with these consoles, like being able to tell a really great 3D visual story and get me immersed in the worlds in a way that wasn't quite possible back in the day. I mean, Super Metroid and there's games like that that had great art and the surroundings told a story, but when the PlayStation came out and Resident Evil hit and Silent Hill hit, I think everything just changed. That genre as a whole, like, completely found its own. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, no,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and
I think
that's
that's
exactly why Resident Evil was the first game I mentioned.
Yeah,
right, and
so
I
good.
think that's. I mean, like people point to this game did it first, or this game had like Kill Switch is a perfect example. Kill Switch had cover
Yeah,
mechanics the way that Gears of War is famous for having the cover mechanic on the original Xbox and the PS2, like before Gears of War was even probably into that point of its development. It's not the first game to do that, but it was the first game to like that was its shtick. That was like the thing that I kind of identified with. But Gears of War did it in a way that like you know if you remember that when did cover based shooting become a thing? Gears of War. Even though this other game did it first, you know what I mean? Like just because Alone in the Dark and Silent Hill might have came first or whatever. Like Resident Evil, and especially 2, I think was the moment where you kind of hit the high water mark of like, okay, everybody's aware of survival horror. Everybody's talking about this game because it does all of the things that all of the games are doing and puts it together in a way that gets everybody's attention.
Yeah, they just had
And
the space, man, those discs and fuck, the
mm,
audio design. There's just so many great things about those classic
and then those
early
mechanics
Resident.
that that Sean was talking about that totally sets it apart. Like I don't think any of these Silent Hill games have had like multiple characters that you run back through and do everything's like completely different. Maybe they should try that. They need to fix Silent Hill so bad.
Well, I think they're
Uh,
going
what
to,
else?
That's what I'm.
man. I think they're gonna do it, right? We got Del Toro, we got Kojima, we got the actor guy from Walking Dead and Boondock. I think we're on to
Norman
something.
Reedus.
Norman Reedus.
Thank you.
His presence alone should
Thank you.
fix the entire. No, but
Um,
what else, Rory? We talked about Silent Hill a little bit already. What other games? Come on, let's delve some deeper if you have any more.
Did I bring
Unless
up
you don't have.
Resident Evil 2, Silent Hill 2, Resident Evil 4, Eternal Darkness? I don't know, man. I talked about Alien
That's it.
Isolation after finishing that, like as a survival horror
Oh
fan.
yeah, that's true.
That's gonna end up being one of my favorites. Definitely, probably in my top 10 at the end of my gaming lifetime. Actually, that's a long time. I'm gonna
I was
retract
gonna
that
say, I was
statement.
like, how about just this year?
Well, this year, hands down. But I mean, that's how many great horror games like really do come out a year. At least how many do I play? Like, I don't seem to come across a ton. But this year seems to be good. We got Alien Isolation. I'm playing The Evil Within, and it's making a pretty good first impression on me. And I'm enjoying it. It feels like a Resident Evil game for the most part, and I'm
Yeah.
stoked on that.
Sean, what were you gonna say? You had something you were trying to get out there. I'm sorry.
uh, no, I mean, I was just trying to remember what we were going to talk about before. I know we were going to talk about horror movies. I know that was going to
Yeah,
come up, and I
totally.
know
Let's do it.
it's a
What's your
good.
favorite horror movie?
I had some. Well, if before we jump off of games or like start to deviate a little into the wilder side, I
I
had
just
something
jumped.
really quick that I wanted to touch on. I wanted to touch on this the craze of the more recent horror releases, the like Steam indie stuff, the Outlast and Daylight and
Ooh, Outlast is good.
Slender and all of that stuff. Like what was the other one? A Machine for Pigs. What was
Amnesia.
the
Amnesia.
All that shit. Like, what are your guys' takes on those things? Do you think those were like one-off moments, or are those going to continue to ripple through? I feel like Alien Isolation is like a clear point towards Outlast as far as gameplay in a lot of ways, or at least yeah, because
Well,
Outlast is the
close
one that you
to, but
learn
at
from
least
the
in
guy.
Alien Isolation, like you do have ways to kind of like in Outlast, you don't even really have a way to defend yourself except for hiding. Like you can hide and run, and that's it. But in Alien Isolation, you get some stuff. You get a shotgun, you get a flamethrower, you have means to sort of keep the alien at back because it's afraid of fire. Um, there's other enemies in the game, so you tend to be shooting people in the face every
But
now and
it takes
again.
a lot of nods from the Outlast gameplay loop of like you have this thing that's like brooding and hunting you, and the Outlast did a really good job of that where you're trying to be aware of your surroundings and hide in things and like
Totally.
watch, like hold your breath
Outlast has an
and lean
enemy
back.
that reminds me of the Nemesis in Resident Evil 3, I believe that came out.
Oh
It's
yeah.
sort of got that vibe where there's like this, you never know like where it's gonna come from and when it's gonna bust into the room because it's constantly following you. But I
Hmm.
don't, back to your original question, I don't really think they're going to be one-offs, and I hope they're not. I know Outlast is actually getting a proper official sequel, so I played Outlast when it finally hit Xbox One, and I love that game. I'm into those games that offer a little bit of a different experience, and if that means I'm not going to have any way of fighting, and I just have to hide in the shadows and cower like a little girl, until these creatures hide back into, that's not even a fair thing to say, because there's some tough as nails girls that can kick my ass and are less scared of things than me. So I probably shouldn't have phrased it that way. So I take that back
A
as
girl
well.
version of Rory Wood.
Oh God, I am
Um,
the girl version of Rory Wood sometimes.
yeah.
So I don't even remember
Sean,
what I was saying anymore.
what's your take on these games that a lot of the, in the absence of true survival horror, we saw these games pop up. When Resident Evil kind of really jumped the shark both ways multiple times, doing flips in the air with Operation Raccoon City and Resident Evil 6, and just stunk the whole place up. And the last, like, I want to say 2 or 3 Silent Hills, I believe, have also been received very poorly. Like, everyone was kind of wondering what the fuck is going on with horror games, because those are the mainstays, the big names that everybody leans to. And then you saw stuff like Slender and Outlast and these Amnesia games, and Daylight came out. Do you think this is a good trend? This is a good direction? Do you like it? Is that stuff that you like to play, or what do you want?
Here the thing is with those games, I couldn't get into Daylight because mostly because of the checkpoints were too spread out, and it's procedurally generated, so
Right.
it's not even like you won't be doing the same thing again, but you're still doing the same thing because the game doesn't have a lot of mechanics. So having to just walk down a hallway shining lights on things and to be scared, it works partially, but then the gameplay part of it breaks down where you're like, I don't want to fucking do this again and again because there isn't any other mechanic than walking. I like Outlast. I didn't get to finish it yet because, again, like, I start games and then I have to review something, so I have to stop.
Right.
And then so it's not that's something I'm going to go back to. And PT, like I say this again and again and again, that's what that is. There's nothing. You don't do anything. You interact by pressing the left stick forward and back to walk and turn around, and then you click the right stick in to zoom in to examine something, and that's it. That's all you do in this game. And I'm sure Resident Evil itself, I mean Silent Hills itself, isn't going to be that, because that works very well for that contained experience. But I think I think it's a good thing. I think like horror movies, like, there isn't just slasher movies, there aren't just ghost movies, there aren't just zombie movies. There should be different ways we can get horror in the gaming space. So I'm all for it, even if I'm not going to experience all of it. I think just having more variety is good, and these things are, I feel like they are a reaction to, and I haven't played Resident Evil 6 yet. I've heard some people say it's actually not as bad as everyone says it is, and I've heard some people say, I played the demo, I like the demo, I have the game, it's one of my many games in my pile of shame. But in terms of Resident Evil 5, I didn't like Resident Evil 5. It's just a lot of the mechanics.
It seemed like that was the direction everything was going for them, though. It's just bigger, better, more explosions, more people playing with you, and it's like, this is not Resident Evil.
That's not what bothered me as much. What bothered me was that they did keep some of the mechanics that they tried to bring into a third-person, more action-oriented game don't fit. It worked in the third-person perspective fixed camera that it did on the previous generation that didn't carry over to a more 3D, more open experience. It was just a little too clunky, and it made the game not fun to play.
I see what you're saying.
But that wasn't. But it wasn't. It just turned me off from the game itself. Not. Also, Chris Redfield being a fucking jacked Gears of War reject didn't help me at all either.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think that, there's a lot of space to cover in horror.
Have any of you guys played Slender? So you said you played. It sounds like you guys have played Outlast, or at least some of it.
Yeah.
And those types of games. Did you play Slender, the Slender Man stuff, where you gotta walk and get the pieces of paper and
I've only played like the freeware, version of that game. I don't know what it's been expanded into and what it is now, or how many versions of it are. But like the free version of like Slenderman that you can download and run around the forest and go into the huts and find the notes and
shit
stuff.
Gets like more and more intense as you get more and more notes. Like, it's closer to you.
It's creepy as fuck, man. Like, it's
so
just
fucking
about the
creepy.
Atmosphere.
And it's such a simple game. Yeah.
It's
all
one of those
atmosphere.
games where like I'll be playing it and all of a sudden that sound effect, that static sound effect starts to
Yeah,
come in
yeah,
a little
yeah.
bit, and you legitimately, like, the hair goes up on my arms, and I start freaking out and panning around looking for him, and then you see
Yes.
Slender Man like in the distance a bit, and you just fucking,
Yeah.
you legitimately feel like a kid again in that sense of like you don't want to look in the mirror and say Bloody Mary. Like, I don't want to look at that thing, and I
Right.
turn and I run.
Yeah. And then the other game I wanted to ask about, I mentioned in the chat here was it Five Nights at Freddy's or something like that? What's it called? 5 day, five.
Five nights at
It's
Anyways,
I think it's Five Nights at Freddy's.
Five Nights at
my
Freddy's, right?
God, that game is so simple and there's just nothing to it, but fuck, it's creepy. Like, so basically, you are in a security room at some kind of place, and there's all these huge stuffed animals, and at night they move, and so you have to like click on the camera, and it shows you you can click between all these security cameras, and as you are looking at the security camera, nothing's moving, but you have to click away to look, to see if something's near you. Um, and then when you click back, everything's moved, or somebody's moved, or one of the dolls have moved, and you have to keep track of which where they are. And there's two doors on either side of you, and they're open. If you try to close them, I think it uses battery or something like that. You can't keep them closed, I believe. But also, there's like a light mechanic where if you turn your light on or whatever, it discharges the battery or the charge. So and like with the lights off, they can all move. And so when you turn the lights on to like look for them or whatever, they can't move, but you're losing your battery. So it behooves you to turn your lights off, but it makes you more susceptible to them to show up. But it's so creepy to see these like big stuffed animal dolls, like just it's sitting there in suspended animation, and then when you switch away and you switch back, they've moved and they're coming towards you, and fuck, it's creepy. Go watch the Inside Gaming guys play it. It is so creepy. It's such a like simple thing, and I think that's kind of why I wanted to ask about these other types of games that are besides the classic survival horror intense, like there's a bad guy in the building and we're running from him, you
Well,
know what I
even
mean?
even Limbo, in a sense, right, could be sort of
That's a good
described as
point.
a little
Yeah, I
bit of a
forgot about
survival
Limbo.
horror game in a sense. I love that stuff, man. I love any outside the box thinking with any sort of
Yeah.
like art form or medium. And if you make me feel something, whatever that fucking feeling is, like we were kind of talking about this, last week or whenever it was, a couple weeks ago with Hatred. But if you elicit some sort of emotion out of me, if your intent is to scare me and you make something scary, regardless of how that scare comes about, like, I'm in. With the
Yeah.
simplicity of PT, or even Outlast, to something more complicated like The Evil Within, with a lot of weapons and
Yeah.
things to
Like
swap
Dead Space,
between.
shit like that.
It doesn't matter, man. Just scare me. That's what I want. I just want to be scared. I'll put up with some awkward controls. I just want to be fucking scared when I play those games.
So, on to movies, as you were trying to do, and I apologize for belaboring that, but I
No,
wanted to
don't.
kind of
Absolutely
squeeze
fine.
those other games in there because I think that's something that, now that we're getting The Evil Within and stuff like this back, we're like, oh yeah, survival horror. But I really think that these other games are going to continue to be popular. They're going to be trendy, and I think it's something worth checking out if you
I
want to
hope they
play some
stick
scary
around.
ass games. All right, so what do we want to talk about movie wise? So what's your favorite scary movie? Is that what you want to do? Scream
Sure.
reference? Anybody? Anybody remember that?
Um, well, I just want to get this out of the way. I watched Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 for the first time yesterday,
Oh,
and
ooh.
I would.
Or well, first of all,
I,
how do you feel about the first one before you say anything about the second one?
it's terrible, and which brings me to my question after
Drew,
seeing
you
the
love
second
that.
one: why do people give him money to make movies? It's
He's clearly selling DVDs and Blu-rays, man. That's where his
He's
audience
he
is.
does
They're
it.
good,
eating it
man.
up. They
He
must be, or he's just
to me.
self-financing
Make
it.
somebody money.
No, they're giving him money to make the movies,
Yeah.
and I don't understand why. And if I was anybody on the studio side who received Halloween 2, and he said here's the movie, I would I would probably want him executed. It's it is such a bad movie in every conceivable way.
I kind of liked
It was so many wrong decisions and just nonstop and it's not scary. It's not even suspenseful. There's one suspenseful.
I would agree with that.
There's two suspenseful moments. One of them turns out to be a fucking dream, which is fuck you. And
Yeah.
number two is towards the end, a character is killed off screen more or less, and that was the only effective moment. Everything else is just. It's just stupid. Why is Michael Myers a big dumb hobo walking around with a sleeping bag and a hoodie?
Yes.
It's easier to
I
write.
was like, I'm sorry, what?
It's just so like there's an interesting premise there, and I don't want to belabor it. The premise of dealing with somebody who survives a horror movie, like not a horror movie, but like necessarily, but like to say that it exists in a horror movie, but the actions that happen in the preceding horror movie to follow the survivors and see how they're trying to put their life together after surviving such a brutal attack
Like
is an interesting one to do. Scream 2 is a little lighthearted on that,
I
but
still know what you did last summer.
but to
Oh,
have
Jennifer Love, baby.
but they just don't. It's just one mode the whole time. Laurie Strode is shrill and foul mouthed and obnoxious the entire movie. But anyway, I just wanted to talk because it was the most recent horror movie I'd watched. But my two favorite horror movies of all time, and I have to mention them both because I can't have a conversation of horror without having these two movies. My number one is Suspiria by Dario Argento.
Never heard of it.
It's if you watch it of the time, if you don't watch it with today's mindset, but you watch it with a mindset that this movie came out in 1978.
Okay.
It's brilliant. And Rory, you would really appreciate this movie from a cinematic,
No, dude, it's high on my recommended list from people that are. It's one of those movies that when I tell people that I haven't sat down and watched it properly, they kind of are looking at me like dumbfounded. So I'm looking forward to it. It's just it's on the list of things that like I gotta get to it because so many people have been like, dude, you gotta check out Suspiria.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of this movie.
It's okay. Let's put it this way. Carpenter, his Halloween, he said that he wanted to make his Suspiria.
Okay.
It's not at all like Halloween.
No.
Let me be clear.
Sure.
But it has it's visually one of the most.
Well, Halloween came out the next year, didn't it?
It actually came out the same year, but it's his like. But it was. The thing is, like with Suspiria, it's like everything about that movie. It doesn't have great acting. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that Italian horror movies back then, they would film the movie and then all the dialogue would be ADR, all of it. Every last bit of it would be ADR. So every sound in that movie was ADR. It wasn't nothing. And so that might be a little jarring. Like I said, you have to watch it of its time and in its context. Not
so cut to the chase. What's the pitch? What kind of scary ass movie is this?
Well, okay, I'll tell you the pitch that my sister told me. She went to see that movie in the theaters when it came out in 1978, and she said after the first 15 minutes of that movie, the only two people left in it were her and her friend.
Okay, so it's a gore fest, or
it's not just gory, it's intense. The music is almost overbearing, like terrifying. It's a masterpiece. It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. And my number two is the remake of The Ring. And that movie...
So the American version of The Ring.
Yes.
The Ring.
Yes.
Okay.
The Ring. Not Ring.
Not Ringu. Yeah.
No, it's not Ring. It was never Ringu. That was just some marketing shit because they wanted to separate it. It's just Ring.
See.
But it's... I remember seeing the trailer for that and being like, I'll go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And, like it could be interesting.
I've actually never seen it.
I went to see this movie. I used to, my mother and I would go to the movies together, and stuff like that. And so I would take her to see it, and we're watching the movie, and about and I'm watching the first opening scene. I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be another teen fucking horror movie, blah blah blah. And then after the first scene, I was just like, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? What was that? And like in my head, this was the thought I was saying. And then like, they show a flash of something, like a victim of the force in the movie. And I leaned over to my mom and I said, and I was 30 years old, and I said, this movie is going to give me nightmares. And sure enough, it did. This movie it's absolutely terrifying. I've seen it a million times and it still gets me every time. It's just got this foreboding sense of dread and just the ending, the climax. It's brief, but it works so well. And I think it's phenomenal. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And it also started me going down the rabbit hole of absorbing as much Asian horror as I possibly could.
Nice. All right, so Rory.
Well, first I gotta tip my hat to you, Sean, with the pick of The Ring. Like, I wouldn't have put that. It's not one of my picks, but I totally agree, and I just want to relate to the horror that it brought me after first seeing it. It's the last movie that I saw in theaters that I genuinely left with my friends, and I was like, "Don't you guys fucking call me tonight." And I made sure that my TV was off so that I wouldn't accidentally like wake up to any sort of fuzz or any crap like that. That movie got under my bones, and it was the same thing where I wasn't expecting it. I just wasn't expecting it to be that scary, and on top of that, just that good of a that well of a made movie overall. That's sort of
Yeah.
I remember walking out of the theater, and it was just when I really started to get into memorizing directors and things like that, and I looked at that poster and said Gore Verbinski. Okay, and I locked that name, and he was one of those directors that I kind of stayed interested to see what he did. But The Ring, fuck, so good. But my actual picks are The Exorcist, and I know mine are a little bit cliched picks in a sense, but that was one of the first horror movies I saw as a kid that really made an impact and truly terrified me. I'm sort of into that. I like movies.
How old were
that,
you when you saw that?
I don't know, maybe 10,
Oh,
around
okay.
there.
That explains it. I was 16 when I saw it, and I laughed the entire time.
Okay, yeah, no, I was young, man, and like even to this day, like I really enjoy movies that sort of deal like I'm not religious in any way, but I enjoy movies that sort of deal with the battles of angels and demons and devils and possession and all that kind of crap.
Sure.
So it just scared the shit out of me, that movie. I thought the performance from like Linda Blair just was great. I still think it's pretty awesome, but that yeah, as a 10-year-old me, terrifying. And the other was The Shining. It's still probably my favorite horror movie of all time. I love that movie. I like all of Kubrick's work, but The Shining just sticks with me. And it's
God,
not that
I
horror of like
didn't even
grotesque
think about The
images
Shining.
or gore and all that. It's just this.
I don't know. That old lady in the bathtub's pretty goddamn grotesque.
No,
Fuck
totally.
yes,
It has
it
its
is.
moments, and of course, like the blood elevator and the flashes of the girls in the hallway with the hacked up bodies. Like it has its moments, but that's not what
There's
the
a
scary thing is. It's like the
there's a
psychological
Slipknot
breakdown
music
of this
video
man.
there's a Slipknot music video called Spit It Out. It's one of their older videos. It's from their first album. And like the flash of the girls in the hallway is two of the guys in their masks in red dresses, and it's way creepier because there's like a clown mask and then a guy with like leather on his face with zippers all over it. That's Shining is so fucking good.
I
God,
love
I
it.
didn't even think about
I
these.
love that movie. There's actually a great. It's not really a great documentary, but it's an interesting documentary, and I think it's called Room Three. What I can't remember what the haunted room was.
313 or something like that.
Yeah, Sean, do you remember what the hotel room? Whatever, but that's what the name of the documentary is. It's room whatever that number was, and it explores
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
I think
some
yeah.
of the myths behind the movie and the actual Indian burial grounds and all this weird stuff that was worked into the movie. And somebody like one of the filmmakers, well, at least one of the yeah, it was one of the filmmakers. They created like a map of the entire mansion, and they were trying to like connect stuff. And there's like weird things in the movie. And Kubrick is such a perfectionist, like with his details. He's such a craftsman that they can't be just mistakes or coincidences. Like he's trying to tell us and like hint at things that are to come, and just like little moments like the first office that Jack Torrance is in, and he's hanging out doing the interview and yada yada yada. That the location of that office doesn't it makes
It's
no sense
room
for like a
237.
window. 237. Go check it out anyway, guys. If you're into The Shining, go check out the documentary Room 237, and you'll get a kick out of some of the theories that are presented in that.
Cool. I want to check that out. That sounds pretty fucking cool.
Do it. It's a neat.
Um,
I want to
It was on Netflix.
I want to put a little bit just to give you, Drew. Hopefully this will make you want to see the movie. Uh, I was at the, I saw The Ring. I had already seen The Ring, and I called my ex.
I actually want to see The Ring. I don't know if I'm going to get
And
to see Suspiria. I don't think I'll enjoy it properly.
if you can, like I said, if you can watch it in the context, like if you can sit there and go, okay,
Yeah.
this movie was made in
I'll think
1978.
about that. Yeah.
But
Drew,
it's
The
even
Ring
just
is so
from a
good that it
visual
makes the shot
standpoint.
of a horse's eye scary.
Okay.
But here's the thing, like so we go to see, I went to see it, and I called my ex, and she was like, did you see The Ring? And I said, yes, it was the scariest movie I've seen in theaters ever. And she didn't want to see it. So we went to see it, and she was mad at me for about 90% of the movie because she was terrified. And there's a moment in the movie that gives you kind of like a lull, and you think things are wrapping up, and she starts putting on her coat to get ready to go. And I have this little internal debate in my head, and I go, should I tell her or should I not tell her? And I said, I'm going to tell her. And I looked this look of concern, and I said, it's not over. And she started crying.
Are you serious?
Yes. And then it was this, and then the last 10 minutes of that movie are fucking one of the most frightening things I've ever seen in my entire life.
Okay. I'm going to rattle off a bunch of movies. You guys tell me if you've seen them, if they're good or not. Okay?
Well, if we like them or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, just if you saw them and if you liked it or not. So,
Okay.
Blair Witch Project.
Love it.
Yeah, seen it.
Phantasm.
Love it.
Haven't seen it.
Wait, you like Phantasm?
I saw it. My friend made me watch it. I thought it was pretty fucking cool. It's really interesting.
If you like
It's-
Phantasm, you'll like Suspiria.
Okay.
I don't think you'll have a problem with Suspiria.
Okay. All right. So if it's not, all right, got it. What was
Wait,
the
is
one?
Phantasm the one with the weird bald
The
looking
balls,
doctor
yeah.
and the kids?
And I just want, because I really
go
want you
for
to
it.
see Suspiria, so I want to prepare you for one thing. The
Okay.
movie was written for the cast to be 12-year-old girls.
Okay.
However, they couldn't do that because it takes place at a dance school, and they wouldn't let them do that. But so it's all adults, but he did not change the script.
Okay, so I should be ready for that.
So there's some parts where you're like, why these people are acting way younger than they should be, but there's a reason for that. And the whole thing is like a fairy tale. Like the doorknobs are high up, like where a kid would be. Where like when a kid would be reaching up for a doorknob, they're like eye level. You know what I mean?
Fucking
So it's
crazy.
it's just a lot of stuff that went into it. But go ahead, continue.
Shit. What's the one with the dolls? The dolls come alive.
There's a lot of them.
That it's they're like creepy fucking dolls, like the one with the scissors and the.
You're not talking in
shit.
the last 10 years though. You're not talking about.
No. This is
okay.
from the 80s.
Dolls.
It's not called Dolls. Shit, I'm gonna have to look it up. I'll segue this little game that I was gonna do because I just ran out because I kept getting sidetracked. But my favorite horror movie of all time is Halloween, but my favorite movie of all time is also scary Alien. So between those two movies, which both came out in like the late 70s, I think I might like Suspiria now that I think about it, but those movies made the rules. Like they made all the rules for all the great movies after them. Scream is actually a classic from my childhood. I was a teenager when Scream came out, so it was perfect timing.
Depresses me because I was not a teenager.
I know. But when Scream came out, I was the target. I was actually just under the target demographic, so I was even more of a target demographic because I thought it was cool. You know what I mean?
I love Scream. Scream's
too
great.
young to watch it, so I thought it was really fucking cool when I saw it. I love slasher flicks. When I was like 16, or maybe a little younger, my friend told me about Ed Gein, because I was into metal, and there was a song by Mudvayne called "Nothing to Gain," spelled Gein, and I learned about Ed Gein. So then I went off on this huge tangent of learning about serial killers and the real stories behind The Summer of Sam, which was a great movie. All these slasher flicks and stuff. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Silence of the Lambs, and Psycho are all based off of Ed Gein. and I like learned all about like I got into the lore of Halloween, like the actual lore, like it's all piecemeal together and stupid and doesn't make any sense. But I was getting so deep into all these like slasher horror flicks and stuff when I was a kid that I've seen all that stuff. I think the one thing that I haven't seen that I've always wanted to see was uh, Candyman. I've actually never seen
Oh,
Candyman,
Candyman, nice.
but I've seen Hellraiser and the Wishmaster.
Wait,
Um,
did you say you've never seen Hellraiser?
I've seen Hellraiser. I haven't
Right.
seen all of them because I don't think
Candyman doesn't hold up.
it matters.
I agree.
Really?
No, it doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
I loved it when I was younger, and then we watched it again for my horror film class, and I'd seen it a bunch of times, but then watching it again, I was like, yeah, this really doesn't hold up. You
Mm.
know what's a really good fucking horror movie that I recommend for everybody?
Yeah.
It's Spanish. It's called Tesis, which is thesis in Spanish.
Huh.
It's really, really fucking good. It's just a really well-made movie, and if you're into movie making at all, the tricks that this movie does, it's like a commentary on how we as horror fans view horror movies. Like we want to see the death, and then we want to, and then how far is too far. It's really, really, really excellent. It's in the 80s, so some of it looks like it's in the 80s, but it's still a brilliant, brilliant film.
You're gonna have to remind me about that one so that I can put it on a list to check it out. Speaking of Spanish films, people, if you haven't seen the original Spanish release of Record, check that out. That's a pretty good one.
What is that? I don't even know.
Rec's really good.
Yeah, really, really,
Is Rec
really
good?
Yeah, like really good.
Should I watch
It's one
Rec?
of it's in my top like scariest movies of all time probably.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed the sort of reveal kind of ending to it as well, and it's good. The sequels get worse and worse as they go. The second one, at least, I think was the same guys, and they tied it together pretty well.
Okay.
But the first one is great. You got to watch that. Don't watch
It's
the
not
American
really.
bastardization remake. It's not worth your time. Watch the original Spanish version.
It's not really a horror movie, but one of my favorite like darker movies, I guess, is Seven. Seven's fucking.
Now,
It's
so
Seven's a
good.
horror
Not
movie.
exactly.
Don't make no
You
mistake
think
about
so?
it. That's a
Okay.
horror.
All right. If
Absolutely,
it counts
that's a
for
horror
you, then
movie.
yeah, cool.
For
Seven
me, I
is
would
Just
one
like
of my.
Silence
in,
of the
like,
Lambs is a horror movie too.
Yeah, it
for
is.
me,
It
it's
is.
like
Yeah.
Seven though. It's like there's horrific stuff in it, but I always like categorize it as like a thriller. Probably. I don't know why.
It is a thriller, but there's some scary
horrific
shit.
Oh
on
yeah,
that.
no question about
Yeah.
it.
I
Did you ever see The Cell?
Yes.
that was awful.
Visually
Awful.
great though.
It was it was a striking film.
Tarsem
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
visually great films. The problem is he's a
Yeah.
music video director and he's never really got his
That makes
So
a
was
lot of
David
sense.
Fincher.
Hey, yes, he
all I
was.
wanna
but
say.
I fucking love David Fincher.
That's what I'm saying. David Fincher is a filmmaker. who
Totally. Hey,
transitioned
I didn't put a label
from-
saying all music video guys can't become great. And there's a reason
But,
why
yeah,
David
you're
Fincher
right.
is considered to be the master of camera in Hollywood. Like why
Yeah.
his films look great, the camera work is phenomenal because of that background as well.
I finally saw Zodiac. Like
Great.
saw Zodiac
Great.
first time like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I-
Zodiac's awesome, but it's a
so I've
slow
seen
burn
all of
for
his
people.
movies except for the new one, Gone Girl. I need to go see that because I'm a huge. So I love David Fincher, but I also love like there's two of my all-time favorite directors are David Fincher and Danny Boyle. I love Sunshine. It's like one of the best movies ever. That's also kind of a horror movie now that I think about it.
No, it is a horror movie, but
I didn't go see Sunshine.
Yeah, go
I-
see
see,
it.
I
I think it's
thought-
hitting theaters what next week?
Shut up.
I thought Sunshine was 2/3 of a really good movie, and then
Yes.
when
It
it
kind
completely
of falls-
embraces,
Yeah.
when it turns into a horror movie full on, that's when I feel like it goes off the rails. But 28 Days Later is really good.
20
So
Days Later
good.
is so good. I think I want to kind of want to see that again.
I think its sequel,
so-
28 Weeks Later, is a little underrated too. It's definitely not as good as the first one, but
I
it's a
I'll,
solid
I'll,
sequel.
I'll I will say that I like it better because to me, 28 Days Later, as good as it is a remake of Romero's original trilogy, just
okay.
in separate acts. It's just
Yeah.
like I don't know if it's homage. I don't know if Danny Boyle just didn't realize what he was doing or whatever. But I feel like a lot of that stuff I had already seen before. Where 28 Weeks Later, that's a nihilistic.
It was
fucking
a
movie,
yeah, it
man.
was a
Good,
real
man.
it was a little
It's good.
spin on that whole concept. The
The
thing
Descent.
about the thing about 28 Weeks
Yeah,
Later,
Descent is good.
real quick though, is the main guy is the guy from the Full Monty, and I just couldn't stop thinking about that every time I saw him. Like I
Well,
just
Oh, Robert
this guy-
Carlyle?
he's the main
Yeah.
guy, but he's turned pretty quick, and like there's a powerful
he
opening
has.
with him, and it's intense. But I think after he's turned, he's not necessarily like really the main guy. I think it focuses. If like Sean, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I thought like
Well, I
once
think
it
you're
gets
right.
going,
Yeah,
it
you're right.
focuses on
It changes.
his daughter
Yeah.
or his wife or
Spoilers.
something. I can't remember who it is.
Yeah, no, I think it is.
Yeah, he's
something
he's
that.
like that's another thing I like about the movie. That movie completely subverts your expectations, and I love when movies do that. When you cannot predict what is going to happen,
Yeah.
and it just works for me. Like I love that movie. I saw it in opening day, and I was blown away. I'm looking at my DVD right now. I love it.
Hey, fun
So I
fact
always
about
wanted
that
to
guy though, the
send that I've
director.
seen.
Sorry, Drew. One last thing though, with the director who did
go
28
for it.
Weeks Later, we've talked about Gore Verbinski. We've talked about 28 Weeks Later now. Both those guys were attached to the BioShock movie. Gore Verbinski
Huh.
first,
That would have been good.
and then when
Oh, I
Gore
didn't know
Verbinski sort of dropped out because the studios wouldn't back his R-rated $250 million movie or whatever it was, they brought in the dude who did 28 Weeks Later. When that happened, I was still like, fucking right. Okay, let's see what happens. But alas, another story for another day.
Um, so I don't know how we're doing on time, but I didn't know if you had any other like specific.
I'm gonna throw out a couple of movies that I
Fuck.
highly recommend for the listeners and for you guys if you hadn't seen them. I'm sure you've seen them. Underrated movie, the Hills Have Eyes remake by Alexander Aja.
Yep.
That is a great fucking horror movie.
I've heard really
Um,
good things about that movie.
Check out his other
His-
one, High Tension, as well, if you like that. His
Yeah, I was
original
just gonna
French
say,
movie is good.
his breakout movie, High Tension or O Tension, or Switchblade Romance, depending on where you are living in the world. It's Switchblade Romance in England, which I don't really like that title, but it's called High Tension. Fucking brilliant slasher movie. Have you seen that, Drew?
No, I don't. I remember hearing about that movie, but
Dude,
The
it goes
Hills
from
Have
0
Eyes,
to
when it
100
came out,
after the
was-
first like 15, and then like never lets up.
yeah,
Yeah.
I-
It's intense. It's brutal and intense and phenomenal. I love it.
So what
Um,
else? What else?
The other one I was gonna say is shit. It just fell out of my head because we started talking about High Tension. Shit.
My bad.
It was just enough.
That's
That's
okay.
all right. Go ahead. You guys. If
Yeah,
I think
Rory,
of it,
do you have
I'll-
any? Well, I was gonna ask. I guess we can just do this. Ask for suggestions. I was gonna ask Rory's suggestion. I had another question, but I forgot. It doesn't matter because this is actually a video game podcast. We're just
Oh wait,
church-
I got one. Have you seen Henry: Portrait of a Serial Killer?
No, I heard a lot about that when it came out. Is it worth watching?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible, and it will make you feel bad. Like
Hmm.
it is. If you tell me you're into serial killers,
Yeah.
this is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Like it is a dirty movie. You feel like you need to shower after you watch it, but it is incredible acting.
Is that Michael Rooker?
Incredibly graphic. Yes, it's his first movie that he was starring in.
Yeah.
It's incredibly graphic.
Okay.
It's intense. It's an intense movie, and
Sorry, I just pulled up Netflix like while we were doing this so I could pull up some suggestions because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to make suggestions for movies that are on Netflix right now for people to go watch this week. So
Okay.
we have World War Z. I'll just run
No.
through these top ones and you can just tell us if they should go watch them. Cabin in the Woods is one of the best horror movies ever. I fucking love that movie so much. Watch Cabin in the Woods. It fucks you up.
Well,
I'm like,
Cabin in
even
the
if you
Woods is
saw the
great
trailer
same
and
way
you
that
know,
Scream was great, right? Like it took all the
Yes.
conventions of horror movies and kind of was
and it
poking
like
fun.
pointed, it like joked about it, but at the same time, it's still a good horror movie. It's like good. It's like a bunch of good horror movies wrapped up in like a movie that's not actually being a horror.
Joss Whedon, baby.
It's so brilliant. Fuck, I gotta watch that again. I'm gonna add it to my list. The Carrie remake is on here. I was
Awful.
bored to tears during that movie.
Awful.
It's just so fucking dumb.
That's
I
a
don't know.
bad movie.
Yeah.
That
They
is
didn't do a
bad
good
movie.
translation at all.
I didn't even go to see it, and I was turned off right away because, like, the great thing about the original Carrie is that it was cast so well, especially with the character of Carrie. And this time,
These are good
I'm looking
actresses,
well,
but man,
they're great.
it's-
But I'm looking at whatever her name is, the
Chloe
lead.
Grace
Thank you,
Moretz.
Chloe.
Yeah.
And I just cannot buy her as that character. Like even when they try and dress her down, I'm like, you're pretty. I don't know. I just don't see how. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And maybe that's a shallow thing for me. But I was just like, how can that
No,
be Carrie?
that's important.
It
That's
is
very,
important.
very
But I'm just
important.
like, maybe if I saw the
So
movie, they handle it okay. But that was a huge
No, they
turn off for
don't.
me right from the
It's
Yeah.
start.
terrible.
So Your Next is on here. I've never seen it.
I want to see that. I heard it was really good.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. World War Z is on here. It's good. It's not amazing. It's nothing like the book, from what I understand.
No, not even a little bit.
Yeah, but it's not. I wouldn't. I'd say skip it if you're trying to do some like horror thing. Fuck yeah, Evil Dead 2 is on here.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
check out
watch
the
that.
Evil Dead remake too. I
That's
I
so
really
Fuck
good.
yes,
enjoyed
I
that.
love that remake. Yes,
Yeah.
it's very good.
Why it's a
The Awakening is on
reimagining, I
here.
should
I've
say.
never seen The Awakening. It's
I heard that was
always-
really good.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's always on this thing. Somebody mentioned From Dusk Till Dawn in the chat earlier. That's on the original is on Netflix right now. Check that out. I just saw Event Horizon for like the second time ever, but the first time since I was an
Yeah.
adult. So
Not a great movie objectively, but one of my
I don't like that
I
movie
enjoy
at all.
watching that. I enjoy watching
it's
it.
I like that
I
movie
liked
at
it.
all.
Yeah, I liked it, but it's not.
I like my sci-fi.
The
horrors.
Insidious movies. I
Don't
kind of
it. I only
like.
saw the first one.
I kind of
I
will say
hated
this.
it.
The second one is here on Netflix. I like Insidious and I like the other stupid shit movie. What the fuck is the? Damn it! They've done
Conjuring.
They've done one like almost every year for the last
Oh,
like.
Dead
Paranormal.
Silence.
Paranormal Activity is actually entertaining if you watch a bunch of them in a row, but they're not good movies.
No, I think I will fight that. I think Paranormal Activity is a genuinely good movie.
The first
and it's
one?
one of the most yes, I think it's one of the most effective horror movies I've seen in a very long time. It is so smart and so well crafted in
The
terms
first-
of
yeah,
sound
I liked
design
what they
and
were doing with this.
expectations.
Yeah.
And it takes a static shot and makes it completely dreadful. And that takes skill. That requires
that
a
is-
skill.
That's become almost kind of passe at this point. Like what it did is it has become the trend now. Like that's what you do. I wanted to see The Conjuring. I haven't seen that. I don't think it's.
That's a
on
good
here.
movie. That was surprisingly. I was surprisingly good. I'm gonna be very clear here.
Yeah.
I don't think James Wan is a good director,
Mm.
and I did not like Saw at all. I didn't think Saw got better until Bousman took over. I thought the first Saw was garbage. I thought the Insidious was garbage. I saw another one of
I
his
really
other horror
liked
movies
Insidious
garbage.
until he got into like the Netherworld shit or whatever. Like that's what
Yeah.
When Darth
that's the
Maul
same-
showed up.
Yeah, well, that first appearance of him though in the kitchen in the daylight, like I thought was an effective like scare, a bit of a jump thing. But I genuinely thought the movie was a little terrifying until he goes into the fucking whole dreamscape thing though, and it gets all fucked up. But there was images from that movie, and I think why it affected me personally was just that there was images from my nightmares as a kid, like the old lady behind the fucking curtains and stuff. So it just kind of made the hair kind of stand up on my arm a little bit, made my skin crawl. But that's what James
The
Wan's
Conjuring
problem
was surprisingly effective.
Yeah, totally.
gonna
but
run
it's the
through
same
a
thing with
couple more,
Conjuring. Like
and then
I
I
really
think-
enjoyed it, but the ending, the ending of the movie just lost me a little bit. But again, like a good horror movie. Like I liked it. It was effective, but the ends.
I
of
gotta
those
run
movies-
through a couple more of these and then we gotta go. My favorite Halloween that isn't the original Halloween is on here.
H2O.
Halloween 6, so Michael Myers. I liked
I'm friends
Halloween
with-
6 because it like got way into the lore. It like started creating reasons for why
Well,
he's alive and shit.
I'm gonna tell you a couple things. Number one,
Yeah.
I'm friends with the guy who wrote that, Dan Ferens,
This
and
the
they
sixth
just
one?
yes, and they produced the box set, and they did all the documentaries for the box set that
Oh,
just came
okay.
out.
Yeah.
Number two, that whole druid thing was taken from the novelization of the first movie.
Okay.
It opens with back in the day, whatever day that is, and
Sure.
this guy kills
Wednesday.
a druid princess.
Mm-hmm.
And they curse him to relive his crime over and over again.
Okay.
So that's where that seed was planted.
So the worst Halloween movie of all time, Halloween Resurrection, is also on here. Do not watch that at all. Busta Rhymes is in it.
Here's the funny thing. I just had a conversation about this today, and that is the one faint praise I can give Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is that it's not as bad as Halloween Resurrection.
Yes. The Grudge is on here. That's creepy as fuck.
The Ju-on is better though. If they have Ju-on.
Of course. I don't see it. Friday the 13th Part 7 is on here. Don't watch that.
Don't watch any Friday the 13th after Part 4.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. It's supposed to end there, and it didn't. Also, Fido is on here. That's fucking weird. Maniac is on here. I do want to see that.
That's the remake, right?
It's Elijah Wood.
Yeah, I watched Maniac.
Yeah. I want to see that. And then, let's see. These are all like out of order. They're weird. No, they're in alphabetical order. Okay. Hellraiser 3. Wishmaster's on here. Check that out. It's fucking weird. It's not good. I'm just saying it's fucking weird. Oh, I feel like I should give one more. Ichi is on here. Have you guys seen
Ichi the Killer is so good. It's not a horror movie, but it's so good. That is a fucked up movie.
You know, scrolling through this, I'm actually seeing a lot more good horror movies on here than normal. So
Ichi the Killer is a fucked up movie.
I think you guys are in for a treat if you want to hop on Netflix, which we're not sponsored by, unfortunately.
I was gonna say a stream to the Netflix show.
I know, right? And just watch a crap ton of horror movies.
Maybe that's what next week's episode can be. We'll stream the Netflix queue, and we'll all just scroll through and talk about
Return
the
of the Killer Tomatoes is on here. Go check that out.
See, this pleases me because the only thing I like as much as video games are the three things I like: music, video games, and movies. So talking about movies,
there's always a place for movies on Rated M, man.
Yeah, we can consider kind of spinning things out if we ever want to get into movie or music stuff. But
definitely movies. I don't want to. Music is a little too personal to me, so I don't like talking about music. But movies, I love discussing movies. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Well, why don't we use that to wrap things up? I want to thank everybody in the chat. Bill, Damon, Nick, Caleb stopped by for a little bit. I think Brandon was here. Thanks everybody for stopping by and hanging out with us on this extended episode of Rated Info Podcast over at twitch.tv/Rated Info Podcast. You can check us out at r8dmgaming.com. That's ratedmgaming.com. We have lots of cool shows to check out on the network over there. If you're listening to this on iTunes, sorry about that. It's been a while. That should be fixed from now on. I think we're going to have a system in place to keep that from a lapse happening again. And I think that's it. Follow me on Twitter at Drew_Freeman85. Follow Sean on Twitter at Into Another, the letter N, the number 2, the letter N, the word other. Follow Rory on Twitter at Red Eye Games Live. And then you can follow us on Twitter at Rated M Podcast. If you go to ratedmgaming.com, you should find the clickouts to all of our stuff. Join our group over at facebook.com/groups/ratedm podcast, and check us out on Twitter. Find us on iTunes. Follow us in the streets. Go play video games with us. We love you guys. We'll see you next week.
Later.
All right, later, guys.
Later.